Oh, how is everybody doing tonight? Episode 8 about to go down. I'll tell you what, the show has been growing so great. I got to thank everybody out there. A lot of great guests lined up for the rest of the entire month of December, so you're going to want to stick around, follow, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you never miss a show. Just going to be a great month leading up to Christmas. And again, I have to thank everybody out there. It's just been having so much fun. I'm telling you, we've been having a great time. Tonight's show's cocktail for me. Anybody who's followed along on the episodes knows I had my Crown at 7 again tonight. That's my favorite drink. And Crown, if you're listening, you're going to have to become a sponsor. I'm telling you. You have to become a sponsor. Oh, geez. Well, I tell you, before we get started, look, just a little quick housekeeping. Please, as always, we'll keep the QR code up all show if you want to support the show so we can keep bringing you great authors, entertainers, and artists with these shows we've just been having so much fun with. Just hit the QR code, take you straight to buymeacoffee.com, and you can buy us a cheap cup of coffee to help support the show. It would go a long way. We'd certainly appreciate it. And, you know, like I always say, it's not even that expensive. Name on the cup coffee with mocha choca latte or whatever. This cheap gas station coffee. That's all it costs to support the show if you feel like heading to buymeacoffee.com, and we'd appreciate it. And hey, if you really want to get crazy supporting the show, check out our merch. I'm telling you, we have all kinds of great stuff for you. T-shirts, heck, I tell you what, T-shirts, cups, coffee mugs. We just got great stuff. I'm telling you. You need to just come on over and support the show and buy some merch with the logo on it. But oh geez, I tell you what, enough goofing off. Let's get to tonight's show with our incredible guest. We come to you from San Diego, California, beautiful San Diego, California, with our great guest. He's a blogger, a reviewer. He's well-traveled, digs deep into locations for things he reads. It's just a whole great thing he has going with this blog and does some incredible work. Please help me welcome to the stage, blogger and reviewer, David Dunham. How you doing, Dave? Thanks for joining us for today's show, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Great to be here.
Oh, and you're coming to us live from San Diego. We certainly appreciate it. And out there on the West Coast, and wanted to have you on really to talk about, you do a lot of great work reviewing various works by other authors and artists, and you have a great blog spot. And you know, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, how you ended up getting into that work and the other things you like to do as far as writing, things like that.
Okay, sure. I got into writing back in the 90s when I was working at a small church, and we needed to do some puppet skits. And we were, a friend and I were exploring ideas, so I did some puppet skits, and I was working at the time with a young teen named Justin Ponser, who went on to become a colorist at Marvel. And so we did a lot of, I was doing skits every Sunday. So a lot of writing in there, and was writing my own stuff and writing books and stories and whatnot. But anyway, a lot of things went on in my life, and I tried to sell books and didn't get sold. And then around 2011, I thought, let's do a blog and just see what that's like. So I didn't really have a good direction on where I was starting. I talked about Locus Magazine. I talked about Gregory Benford, science fiction author. And but eventually I started going to England, and from 2011 to 2017 I went to England for 5 times and went to a whole bunch of great places that were associated with either TV series that I liked or books, books where books were set, where authors had lived, things like that. So I got to go to Rye in England, where E.F. Benson had set Map and Lucia, his novels. I got to go to Oxford, where the Inspector Morse series takes place, and where J.R. Tolkien met C.S. Lewis and Charles Williams in the Inklings, and got to go to see All Creatures Great and Small, James Herriot, his hometown of Thirsk, and got to see where The Prisoner was filmed in Wales, and just a whole bunch of great places. And all of these things then provided fodder for my blog. For example, I was in 2015. I'm sorry?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying, I could see it giving you a lot of material to write for, on the blog. All that traveling.
And one thing would lead to another, because I'd be doing, say, the Agatha Christie thing in 2015, where I went around Devon in England. And researching Agatha Christie led me to Baroness Emma Orczy, who was writing around that. I think she had come before Agatha Christie. She was an inspiration. So I started reading all of her stuff, which is incredible. But so many great authors. I visited their places. Some that you would never hear of, like Charles Kingsley these days. He wrote a novel called Westward Ho, which at the time was so big in England that people came to the hometown of Amyas, the character in Westward Ho, and it's a town called Bideford that you can visit in Devon. And they have a big statue there of Charles Kingsley, and all of the businesses there. A lot of the businesses have references from his novel on the names of taverns and of other public buildings. And so many people descended on this town that eventually they made another little seaside resort called Westward Ho, with an exclamation point at the end. And it's one of like 2 towns in the world that has an exclamation point in it.
That's crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's I tell you, well, how's I know when you talk about Dragon's Cash, I mean, you have a plethora of reviews and things you work on, and it's just a really great site with a lot of work you do, and I could see that traveling just making some of the reviews interesting too. So how's the blog doing anyway? I mean, are you doing well with it, or?
Yeah, I've been having a great time. 2020, obviously everything kind of stopped. No traveling and all of that. So I got into reviewing comics for Valiant Comics for a while, and was doing that for 2 years. But they were kind of struggling because the Bloodshot movie with Vin Diesel opened on the weekend that Governor Newsom in California said, we need to shut everything down. So I didn't even get to see it in the movie theater. And that's, I don't know what they spent, tens of millions of dollars. And then all the movie theaters are closed.
Right.
So they lost money on that. And they'd been struggling, with their comics. So I kind of, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I thought I need to look around, do something different. And I found a site called Comic Book Dispatch, where I was able to hook up and start reviewing Marvel and Image and IDW and Dynamite, Dark Horse, Boom, all the big, indies, as well as Marvel. So I was doing that. And then I was also starting to get into Twitter more, or X, you know,
Right.
and meeting a lot of great authors on X, and it's so cool because I wasn't really familiar with all of the online publishing, you know, tools for independence. Had always sent out stuff and waited weeks and got rejections, you know, and all that.
The query process.
Yeah. So it's amazing to me how many people have really, you know, gotten their stories out. So I'm reading stories now by Tom Kane. I'm reviewing his Brittle Sea trilogy. And I just finished up Gregory Alexander Sharp's new novel, Kill and Cure, Il Lupo 2.0. And
I'm hoping to have Gregory on the show soon.
Yeah,
you know, with the Il Lupo. Cool. It's a genre, you know, that's interesting. That's for sure, that he writes in. But it's one of those things, you know, when you talk about X, and that was one of the reasons I was so interested to have you on. I mean, the show here just, you know, we try to help all our hardworking indie entertainers and authors and artists, and because there's so many advantages to being independent, and of course there's always the problems because you don't have the big marketing department drive, you know, and it's on you as an independent artist and author, and that was one of the things that interested me about having you on, was your help with indie authors writing and, you know, reviewing, because those are all things that go into, you know, a regular legacy publisher, you know, marketing department, but independents have that as well, and X is a great platform for that, I've found anyway. You know, been real impressed and real happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to review things that people, you know, that are happening now, and that people actually, you know, care about wanting to get out there, because as an author, I know that you want to connect with an audience. You want to write, and you want it to mean something to somebody. So, you know, Gregory is, you know, putting his heart out there, you know, about his characters and their struggles. You know, one of them has been scratched by a werewolf, so he's you know, he doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to hurt people. But that's an inevitable part of being a werewolf, even though he's got, you know, enhanced strength and enhanced vitality and health and everything. He's got a lot of benefits, but he doesn't want to hurt people. And his friend has seemingly everything in the world going for him. He's rich and everything, but he's got personal issues that he's got to deal with. So, but anyway, he's, you know, Gregory's written a good novel, and he wants to get it out there. He's working hard on Twitter to share everything. So he made it free at one point. So I thought, yeah, I got to check this guy out, see what he's doing.
Yeah. Do you have any genre that you prefer to review on your blog, or are you kind of run the gamut?
Well, science fiction and fantasy is always going to be my main thing. That's where I came from. You know, I was always reading science fiction, fantasy, and then I grew up with Star Trek, you know, on TV, and then Star Wars came out, and that was like, wow, you know.
Right, yeah.
that just blew me away. The first movie I ever saw in a movie theater, just like, wow. So after that, I was always looking for something else. But, you know, I like a bit of everything. You know, when I was talking to you about England, I was researching these places, and, you know, books that were written, you know, 100 years or more ago, I was really getting into. In a way, it's kind of like world building, because you're reading these stories about a vastly different culture, you know, than our own. and so much of a different outlook on life and how they conducted themselves. So,
and that's the beauty of literature for sure.
Yeah,
that
it really transports you to these places. So, yeah, I like a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, and I like that traveling thing as as it relates to the literature work. In fact, I think I just posted one a little short video maybe a month ago or so from a Confederacy of Dunces, because it was obviously here in New Orleans. And so I went around town to some of the places in the book and, did a little short video. And it was
cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So it really intrigues me to traveling. And I'll tell you, when you talk about all the comics work you do, is that that's a genre I really don't know much about, but I know it's a huge industry that most people aren't aware of just how huge the comic industry is.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I attended my first literary science fiction convention in 1998. Came to San Diego. It was called WesterCon, and I got to meet the guy who's the publisher now of magazine and fantasy and science fiction, Gordon Van Gelder. He had recently come over from St. Martin's Press to be the manager at that point. He had rejected a couple of my stories, so I just it was a good opportunity to talk to him.
That's right, face to face, with the letter in hand. Hey, you remember this?
He actually, typed me a nice little letter, said thank you for it. But yeah, I attended conventions between 1998 and 2013 was my last one, when I went to England to the World Fantasy Convention. And that was a fairly big, for a science fiction fantasy literary convention. That's pretty big. I've never been to anything like Worldcon. I've been to Worldcon, but I haven't been to DragonCon, which is really big in Atlanta. They do that every year. But I attended my first comics convention in 2011, 2012. It was called Stan Lee's Comikaze in Los Angeles. It's now LA Con, I think they call it. But then I got in contact with Justin because I was getting into Facebook at that time. We connected, and he sent me a whole big box full of Ultimate Spider-Man comics that he had been working on, as well as some other things. So that kind of the LA Con just kind of blew me away, because it was such a big exhibit hall. I'd never been to a big exhibit hall like that. Was full of so many people doing so many different things, all wrapped under the umbrella of the comics. They even had people playing the Quidditch. They had these people playing
really?
Quidditch there.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. It is, and it's just like I said, when we have the Comic Cons and things like that come to town here in Louisiana, it's really, like I said, it amazed me, just the scope of the industry. And are you shifting more towards just indie reviews, or do you do most of your work through the major comics and things like that?
Well, I wanted to learn more of the majors of DC and of Marvel, but I found it hard to get into the DC, but Marvel was available. So every week, the way that the comics are released these days is DC comes out on Tuesdays, and Marvel and the indies come out into the shops every Wednesday. So I try to get him a good selection of things for his site. He has a couple other reviewers, but it's a small operation, and so there's a handful of us basically, and so I'll try to do one Marvel and then two indies every week. And sometimes I pump it up and do 4 or 5 reviews, but it takes time. It easily takes as much time as, say, a book review to do a comic review. But the nice thing is that you can read a comic a lot quicker than you can read a book. So, and you also do have a lot of the art there that you can look at, and you can talk about the art, because the art is integral to the comic, whereas in a book you can have the odd illustration, but it's not integral to the story. The story, you'd be reviewing the story based upon the characters, the content, the feel of the flow of the language, and of course, how it spoke to you. So a comic is different. You have more visual cues on what you're doing, and it's a totally different experience. There's every different there's TV and movies and comics and books. They're all so different. And in fact, I just recently reviewed my first children's book. For some reason, Dynamite sent that out through an imprint called Curiosity Books. So I reviewed a book there called Mr. Zip's Windy Day, which I posted on my blog today. So a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, and I tell you, your blog is just amazing, and like you said, the work that goes into reviewing, it's all part of sort of what we mentioned a few minutes ago. For the indie author and artist, and that it's part of that huge marketing department that you don't have available, not being with a legacy publisher. But on the plus side, you're doing your own marketing instead of writing query letters, like you said, and waiting weeks to get rejected. It's and I've had a lot of talk with indie authors and artists, and the main thing is just to get out there and get your work done, and it's really more of a free market kind of thing. And so if authors, is there a specific way you select the work and reach out to the authors, or do they reach out to you and you accept things? How do you do your work?
Generally speaking, I've always been kind of just a intuitive reader. I just whatever. I've got so many books at home that I've probably never read, but they always attracted me in some way. I wanted to read it, but at a certain point, I'd finish a book and I'd say, what do I feel like reading now? And I'd go and look at my bookshelf and see what's there. And, initially, there were, on Twitter, there were just a lot of people that were talking about their books. And so, as I went through on the writer's lift, I'd go and check out their books, on Amazon and what things. And Tom Kane had his first book for free, and which was about a lady from the Ukraine who travels to the U.S. on the Titanic, and then she ends up being saved by this gentleman who's he's basically running a cargo ship, and he saves her, but she's lost her memory. And that was free, so it was interesting to me. I liked the historical, aspect of it, and I liked the whole connection with the Titanic. That's a big thing in literature, and so I read that. I enjoyed it, and Tom actually reached out at one point to me and said, you've been talking about the Brittle Sea a lot on X. You want to read these other ones? I said, sure. Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you do any great reviews on your blog of like great interview shows like Cocktails with Cav or something like that? Or
I haven't really done a whole lot with TVs or podcasts or anything like that, but it's I mean, it's hard to know what I'm. The blog's kind of evolved as it's gone on. For a long time there, I would get comments from one guy in England who really liked the historical stuff that I was talking about.
Right.
But most of the time, I don't really get a whole lot of feedback on things. I think my biggest post is where I went to the house, which is supposedly where Gene and Lionel live, in a TV show called As Time Goes By that was in England. And I get tons of people that, just look at that and they love that because they love the show. So they connect with it that way.
Oh,
but these days I'm kind of like exhausted sometimes by how many comics I do.
right.
And I don't get around to reviewing every single book that I read, although I'd like to. But I am reading a lot more, transitioning to reading a lot more of the authors who have made their books free, who are on X, who I regularly chat with. It's like, yeah, I definitely want to check them out and, see what they're doing. And it's great to learn about them and what their passion is. And so it's great to be able to check out what they're doing.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, yeah, David, look, I tell you, I really appreciate you coming on. It's not a world, the world of the reviewer and the blogger that a lot of people get are aware of, and I'm glad you could come on and explain a lot of it. And I tell you, if you want to reach out to David, by all means, please follow him on X. Great member of the writing community and Writers Lifts, and David Dunham, DC. His screen name's right there on the screen for you. Please go follow him on X, and by all means, I always have a backwards camera problem. By all means, please go check out his great blog, Dragon's Cash, and the QR code right up at top will take you straight to it, and as well as we'll provide some links in the comments. In case you're not QR code savvy, but and Dave, please, is there anything else you're into that we should know about, and get a scoop on Cocktails with Cav that you're into that we could push for you? Any new writing?
Well, I'll tell you, I got an email earlier this week from somebody that I'd never heard of. Some company that does these, they do these online book tours, I guess they call them, where it's basically a promotion. And they send you a book, and you contract with them to drop the review on that specific day. So I've signed up with them. I haven't even looked at the book yet. Supposedly the author is a Kirkus 100 author. So I'm familiar with science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and Locus Awards and Dragon Con, World Con, but I'm not familiar with Kirkus, so I'm not sure what that is. But it sounds like it's global warming, technological thing. But anyway, I'll be diving into it at a certain point, and I've scheduled that book for I've committed to scheduling it for January 10th, so you can look forward to that and see what it is. And supposedly other people will be promoting it too, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, amazing though. Yeah, and just like I said, there's this network going on for independent creators that I think people need to start paying attention to. That's for sure, because it's a viable option nowadays. The technology's evolving so fast, exponentially fast, as it were. But Dave, I really appreciate you coming on and explaining. And we definitely will look out for your new connection that you have going on with reviewing in your blog. So, ladies and gentlemen, please follow Dave over on X, David Dunham DC, and as well as just check out his great blog, Dragon's Cash, and his work going on. And we certainly appreciate you coming on, Dave.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. All right, man. And What was your cocktail of the day for Cocktails at Cav?
Oh, it's a nice little red wine that I opened just for today.
Always perfect. Always perfect. That I have red wine on this end. You know, sometimes it's a good month. Sometimes it's a good year. Depends on how well the show goes. But Dave, again, cheers, man.
Cheers.